Hi, everyone. I am Marge Brea, and I am the president of LeadSpace. What we wanted to do in this brief session is to go through one of the most important things that is required to really making sure that AI is a leading strategy and execution possibility for sales and marketing. And this is all part of our survival guide series. One of the things that I was lucky enough to learn over the years was is something called the CAP process, change acceleration process, and this is just a super cool tool that I learned when we were rolling out years ago the whole idea around becoming a black belt. I know that sounds geeky in Sun Microsystems years ago. And so wanted to share this. It's a real easy, kind of process and tool to use to get folks on the same page. And thought you might be interested in this. And of course, happy to talk to folks outside, et cetera, because this is a true passion of mine. So the first step in what's called the change acceleration process, or CAP, is all about, first of all, identifying the stakeholders of your change. So I can imagine, right, in aligning sales and marketing teams around AI, key stakeholders are going to be folks who are interested from a business standpoint on outcomes, interested in a productivity improvement standpoint, associated with the teams or even investments. And then the direct people who actually can be utilizing AI to make different decisions or prioritize their work differently. So, in the case of sales and marketing AI, I always think about, of course, it's going to be the CRO or the head of sales, the head of marketing, and their operations folks for sure. There could also be other executives, right, who are interested in the change. Sometimes a COO at a company is very interested in using AI to improve productivity or reduce costs and effectiveness and increase effectiveness, all of that kind of good stuff. The other thing is, especially with AI, as it's associated with making decisions from campaign teams as well as teams, I would bring in folks like your your SDR leaders or BDR leaders, depending on what you call them. A couple of maybe regional or territory sales managers, and then a few of the marketing leaders. For example, folks who are in digital campaigns or field marketing folks, so that everybody can understand what the whole idea behind sales and marketing AI is. And these stakeholders then can be aligned to help support and accelerate the change as things go forward. So, what's the first step? Really, it's creating a shared vision. So you align all of these people in a room. I always like to do these in person, but these days, of course, they can be done virtually as well. And the whole idea is to create a shared vision. And how do you do that? The way I learned to do it, I do it just naturally now, is a couple of steps. So if there's a big whiteboard, if you're doing it virtually, you can use a virtual whiteboard or even just a blank slide or doc that's opened. Ask the team that's all there to describe today's situation for how decisions or targeting people or companies, all of that sort of stuff is handled today. And but you can of course do this in any situation, not just sales marketing AI. So you get folks to describe today's situation, and likely folks will start out saying some words like unclear, or maybe they'll be positive and um, say you know teams working together. You capture all of these phrases, And I would do this honestly for about 15 minutes. And in those 15 minutes, what you'll see is increasingly folks will feel more comfortable to go ahead and share, hey, here are some things that might not be working so well, or other things there. And if you can get folks to really open up and not necessarily put your point of view as the leader of the session on the on the slide or the doc, but really capture the team's view that basically names what the current situation looks like today. And almost everyone I've ever been in, I actually I don't think I've ever been in one of the sessions where everything is a bed of roses, right? And so there's always been some sort of you know, obvious improvement that comes out of that first step in terms of today's situation. But what you've done there in those 15 minutes is captured the moment, right? Captured what people see as what's going on. The next step then is give these guys the permission, as I always say, to describe what would be the best imaginable state or situation for targeting, let's say, who to go after, etc. And that best imaginable state will end up being no doubt around sales and marketing, aligned on who to go after, teams making decisions that are with each other, um, a better return on investment, an ability to accelerate the the whole deal process. Many times, for example, in one of the shared vision sessions I've been in recently with a client, it was all about could they, after kind of really targeting a very highly likely convertible group, double the size of their deals, or, as I said, accelerate the deal cycle, right? Lots of things there. So you get the team then, and you're scribing again what the best imaginable state is. And typically that'll be a little shorter than the 15 minutes on the today's situation. For whatever reason, in many cases, people tend to want to complain a little bit more than talk about the best imaginable. But ultimately, the best imaginable will be that the joint team and the group of stakeholders win in the marketplace. And that's usually what people will say. If we make a change and if we have a shared vision, that's going to be a big deal. The next thing on that vision is describe what will happen if you don't achieve that state. And that's where folks actually get on the same page, right? Because ultimately, what will come out of it typically is that, well, we might not win, or we might not meet our plans, or our competitors might be in a position where they're going to use AI, and our CAC, or cost of customer acquisition, is going to be way higher than anybody else's. Lots of things from a competitive standpoint typically will come into this state. Sometimes what'll happen is it could also be around if a marketing team or a sales team doesn't lead forward to do this sort of thing, that they'll be not seen positively in the organization. You'll get a lot of things that'll come up in this conversation that will typically, done well, bring out not only the personal reasons that people are bought in, but also the business reasons, the market reasons, the competitive reasons that will come up. And these three areas here, like, literally then, like, put the opportunity for creating this change and accelerating this change squarely in front of everybody. You have a shared view on what today looks like, a shared view on what best imaginable could be, and then a shared reason that folks need to get together, because otherwise you won't achieve, the market potential that everyone has, from a possibility standpoint. The next step then is, how do you mobilize commitment? So in mobilizing the commitment, this you guys probably have heard these statements many times, right? But adults learn through doing, and we all, if we don't mobilize something right away, and come up with what I can do, or you can do, or we can do as a team to affect this change, it's all going to sit there. People won't naturally go ahead and say, okay, let's go work on AI. So, how do you garner that commitment and mobilize it? The next step that we use, and what I was trained to use as part of the change acceleration process, is to brainstorm, and again, all in the same meeting, what are the most important things to do to get to that desired state. And again, it's a whole, if you're in a room, you might have people, write on sticky notes and put a sticky note all over on the whiteboard to say, hey, there's this and this and this. Sticky notes are the easiest way, frankly, in this area, because you'll probably end up getting, depending on the size of the team, 6 or 7 ideas from every person in the room in terms of what could all be done. And you want folks to say, hey, we could do this, we could do that, because you'll get a collective view of what's possible that's way more complete than what you and maybe the small team of leaders would have thought about on their own, especially since you're looking at folks a little bit deeper in the sales and marketing organizations, the operations folks, as well as the leadership as well. So this is, if you can imagine this whole situation with sticky notes all over the board from various individuals, you'll have all of these ideas. This affinitize word, some people folks are like, what do you mean? What is affinitize? All it means is, when you're imagining those sticky notes all over the board, right, on the whiteboard, all you're doing is putting, and a lot of times I'll do this with the team to say, okay, these 4 things look alike. Is that what you meant? And so you start grouping things. One section that's like this with all the sticky notes. One section that's like this with all the sticky notes. One section over here, right? Maybe a few sticky notes that are standalone. But a lot of times you'll see lots of sticky notes in one area, etc. And that affinitization then, or clustering of ideas, makes it so that a sea of could be 40 or 50 or 60 ideas turn into a sea of 10 or 15, and that's that affinitize. Then in sessions that I've done as well, we might have these sticky notes that then go into votes, right? So maybe everybody gets 3 votes, and you prioritize what the team believes are the 3 or 4 things that are the most important things to do in the project, right? And if I had to do a bet on what those might be in sales and marketing AI, and I think I'm pretty, usually pretty good at this, given the number of sessions I've done on this. You're going to have folks that are going to be really focused on, how do you make sure that that the sales and marketing teams that are out there making decisions every day on who to go after, when to go after folks, etc., have a superpower of support called AI to help them make the right decisions, and in some cases automate those decisions for them, so that they can work on and perfect the art of selling and the art of creating campaigns and action in those campaigns, as opposed to the art of targeting. So that's all around that mobilizing commitment, right? You're getting the folks to come up with all the ideas in the last section to go ahead and brainstorm what what are the most important things that could be done to affect the best imaginable outcome. You have all the sticky notes, and you gather them together into common ideas, and then you've got the voting and prioritization of the most important things to do. Sometimes in that voting and prioritization, there can be short-term and long-term things also. You might find out that one of the most important things that are on the list will require like an enormous project that will take a long time. In this case, sometimes, although it shouldn't take a long time if you talk to us, sometimes one of these in AI is could be getting your data in great shape. Our data is terrible. How do we do anything around AI if our data is so bad? Um, you know, that might be something that folks would posit that it could take 6 or 9 months to get there. There are low hanging fruit always that can be done earlier without just focusing on this long pole in the tent. At Sun Microsystems, we used to call it looking for the low hanging watermelon instead of the low hanging fruit, right? What are those big things that could be like quickly? And maybe it's around making intent work really well across sales and marketing, and having intent for the key products or solutions that we're going after, which is a really easy thing to do, and something that might be a great first step. Or can we categorize the people into personas and match that to the content that the marketing teams are going after? Or even just to make sure that we have all of the people in our Salesforce or Dynamics databases categorized properly, so we know on our most important accounts who to go after. Do we have anybody on the buying team that is not represented? All of that kind of good stuff. So there's always things that can be done really quickly, and to get the change started. Then the next thing is all about obviously monitoring progress. And everybody always says, right, you can't manage what you can't measure. Monitoring progress is a key thing. So if you go back to that best imaginable, in that best imaginable step, way back in the in getting the shared vision, uh, invariably there are KPIs that come directly in that area. I'd suggest you focus on those KPIs and take a couple of them that are most important and start using them to indicate that a positive change. And again, it could be like, let's pretend it's on database quality. Were you able to go ahead and, I'm making it up, categorize your contacts and leads into all of the personas that you're going after? Have you been able to do? Have you been able to make sure that you've got good data on for your accounts, or good data on in terms of where people are currently working in your database from a lead or contact standpoint? All kinds of stuff there. So and again, the list of KPIs that are most important are always a combination of slow moving KPIs, but some fast moving ones that'll show that something's happening. The other thing that I tend to do in this area is I try to identify a couple of heroes. And these heroes in the organization are the folks that can say, wow, I tried this. And this is actually really cool. Have you looked at this? And you'll find these people out of your stakeholders. You might find this in some teams that that you select to be at the table and the stakeholder process to say, hey, I'm willing to try this because I actually think this could work. Those key people, or those heroes, right, can be the folks that shout out about the KPIs in this area too. And you can have them on a team meeting to say, hey, here's modest improvement, but I saw this and it's really cool. Just some things to get that positive indicator of change across everybody. So in general, right, that's really important. And where do you do all of those KPIs? Obviously, you report them out in your operational teams. And it might be that it's just one team that's meeting, a couple times a month, or maybe weekly for the operators, once a month for the exec sponsors. But that's where you report out the KPIs and then monitor all the work teams that are associated with the most important projects that you're doing to move forward on the change. So finally, right, with those key executive stakeholders, everybody's gonna, I hope, be updating them, like in the hallways or in some of their regular staff meetings. But a formal have everybody at the table as one voice should be done at least quarterly, and to update them to say, hey, here's the change we've made. In some companies, and especially if you're a small company, that might happen monthly. It all depends on what the culture of your team is and how big the change is. But that's the way I look at it and how I've done it. And that stakeholder, regular updates means that they're also the folks that either for the executive staff or sometimes even the board are the big proponents for how the innovation of revenue AI can be celebrated and just not made proud of in the organization, which then of course everybody wants to be part of that change. So I hope that this was helpful. I've been using the change acceleration process or the CAP process for about 20 years. Again, this was, and maybe I should have said it at the beginning, this was something I learned not only at Sun Microsystems, but it was because over at GE years ago, this was a process that Jack Welch and the GE team, really put through all of the leaders in the organization. And Scott McNeely, who was at Sun Microsystems, he was on the board of GE, and we were lucky enough to learn a lot of the things that he actioned in Sun Microsystems that were some of the best practices from, frankly, one of the well-known leaders in the industry. So I hope this helps. Obviously, I'm happy to take any questions, and very excited, of course, to share what I do here. So one of the questions that I saw is associated with what are the big tips that you would have for selecting stakeholders. Again, I would make sure that you don't just choose people who are automatically on your side or on the side of making the change. Make sure that you've got folks that you think might be skeptical as well, and of course you want to mix, right? You don't want just all naysayers. That's going to be tough, but it basically gives you an ability to learn and manage what are things that might be real detractors for getting this change across and implemented throughout the organization. Terrific. Well, I don't see any questions right now. Thanks, you guys. And as always, march.brea@leadspace.com, or hit me up on LinkedIn. I'd be happy, obviously, to talk to you, but also if there's something we can do from LeadSpace to help you through the whole process of really making sales and marketing AI a thing that changes the game for you within your companies, please hit me up. Thanks, everyone.